to this computer. Okay, so this is our empathic design, designing community at the Empathy Center, which you see behind me. We have an agenda for today. This is our first meeting to talk about setting up a design project at the center. And I thought we'd go around, introduce ourselves and our interest in maybe empathy and in design, if you have any design background or why you might be interested in it. We'll review this Google Doc. I've got all the information we've been putting together about this design project, and then maybe brainstorm some ideas and talk about how to get others who are interested in design, to take part in the group, and maybe even start planning our first design workshop here. So maybe just get started, just doing short introductions. I'm Edwin Rutch. I'm the director of the Empathy Center now for 15 years. I've been working on the culture of empathy, building a more empathic society. And my brother purchased this property here in Santa Barbara, asked me to manage it. So we're setting up the Empathy Center. And in terms of design background, because I'm interested in empathy, one of the directions that empathy goes is into human-centered design. I think it's the first step for designing anything, according to IDEO, which is one of the top design companies in the world, and the D School, which is the design school at Stanford. And I've taken, multiple workshops at Stanford on design, as well as held probably about 10 online and in-person design projects. So that's my experience. So it was probably about 5 years ago I did that. I haven't done too much of it recently. And just thinking in terms of how do we bring design here to the Empathy Center and make it a central part, and I'll go into it more. So Jackie, you want to introduce yourself and we'll just go around?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie. I'm located in Ojai, California. I'm trained as an architect and designer, so it has been my life. Undergrad architecture, graduate exhibition design, started my career in museums and curatorial, and then shifted over to commercial, mostly retail design for different companies in the country and the world. And most recently, Nike in Portland. Got a little burnt out, shall we say, from the corporate design, just the corporate world, not as much the design world. And COVID got laid off with, 3,000 other people at Nike, and took the opportunity to do a fellowship with the Garrison Institute in upstate New York, which brings together mindfulness, science, action, and the environment. And so spent the first 3 years of the pandemic working with Dan Siegel, an amazing neuroscientist, and all these people kind of brainstorming how do we solve some of the challenges that we face as humanity. And I took it from a design standpoint. So really took to heart. There's a great Medium article, and I can throw it in the chat if anybody wants to read it, by Adam Horowitz, called sorry, my brain isn't working right this second, Sacred Hospitality. And so this concept of that sacred hospitality, very much like the Empathy Center and the work that Edwin does, can be kind of part of every moment of every day. So I met Edwin a few months ago, have done a couple of the trainings, and am just excited to see maybe this can not only be the Empathy Center, but like the Empathic Design Center for the area, which would be cool.
Yeah, I hope so. That's one intention. Jonathan, a little intro.
Oh, well, thank you, Edwin. I took the formal facilitator training classes over the last year, and I'm here to support this group. And should we get to a size of 10 or 15 people, Edwin often breaks rooms into multiple rooms, like committees. And if these, as we're working on ideas and sharing our ideas, I expect we'll be using a bit of the reflection techniques that are the foundations of the Santa Barbara Center to build community. So I'm really looking forward to this opportunity.
Well, great, thanks, Jonathan. Angela, would like to go?
Yeah, hi, I'm Angela Sturdivant. I live in Carpinteria, so I'm not too far from the center. And I actually don't have any formal design background, but I looked through a lot of the links that you sent, Edwin, and I was just so fascinated by the concept of it. And I'm just like, I don't know, I'm naturally creative. And I was just like, this is something that sounds just so right. And so I was like, I want to learn more. So I'm here to learn more and be able to participate as I do that, because I can't say I have, a background in that at all. And I'm a school counselor, so I've grown three grown kids, and I've worked with kids my whole life, and um, I don't know. That's just kind of like where my mind always goes, is like to build things that can teach kids younger and younger, because they're so open and ready. So, anyways, I'm happy to be here to meet you all, and I would like to read that article if you could link it. And then I tried to open your link, Edwin, and it didn't let me.
Oh, really? Let's
Yeah.
double check here.
Are you logged in?
It says, we've detected a problem with your cookie settings.
Uh-oh, cookies. Here's another link. Does that one work?
Let's see.
Chance? That's the full.
Yeah, it's not letting me. Maybe it's something on my end. I'll play around with it.
Are other people, Jackie, are you in that document? I say, yeah, Daniel's in it. There's maybe some setting then. Yeah, and I'll just mention that one doesn't have to have design background to do this process. It's just you probably just have to play with your settings, try a different browser or something. It's set for everyone being able to access it. So
okay, I'll open up
I'll also do a screen share of it and kind of review it in a minute. So yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm excited to be here, and I'm blown away that I'm actually in the first meeting, that I didn't miss something. What really got me here is my passion to contribute to whatever's happening around the empathy movement. I did one training with Edwin and Bill and Lou, and Jackie was there at Santa Barbara, and I'm very deeply touched, as already has affected my life very profoundly. I'm quite trained in NVC, but this has helped me to get certain things handled that were really kind of difficult. I'm in the middle of designing. My heart of hearts, I'm a musician, but I'm mostly a street musician. I like to play with not musicians. I like the part of music where music helps to bring people together and connect them with each other in their heart. And to me, music is sort of like a form of group empathy, where everybody at the same time feels meaningful and heartfully connected, especially in the way I feel how I want to make music. There's an invitation in the music that allows that to happen. And it's kind of rare. It's a weird thing to me, but from my perspective, doesn't happen all the time, just because we don't pay attention. And that is a similarity to language. I feel like we have the possibility to be empathically in language, but we choose oftentimes not to. The same in music, and when it happens in music, it just really turns something on in us that is super powerful. I have a group in Phoenix that the common statement from them is, not only am I making music, now I found people, now I have communities. This is incredibly important to me. I cannot imagine to ever live without it. And we're in the process of getting organized around that as an entity. We call ourselves Music for the People. And part of what I want to be involved with is I talked to Edwin about it already. I would love to do seminars in the Empathy Center around that theme, and using empathy circling to, enhance the process. So, and then from my background in terms of bringing people together, my sunset on right close to the ocean, and I lived 30 years in Phoenix, where we moved from Phoenix in February 22.
I have to apologize. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area in Berkeley.
All right.
Edwin, good to see you back.
Yeah, sorry that my internet's a little flaky. I might drop out again, so try to keep coming back.
You might want to turn off your camera, and if you need to share
that's
screen, I can do it for you, or Jonathan.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks. Yeah, I'll just turn the camera off. We should have good bandwidth here. Somehow just the internet's been going in and out up here. So, all right, great. I hit the record button again. So I was going to just do a screen share, go through our document, and I think it'd be good just to have a recording of that so anyone can see that, and we can just discuss it before going into sort of some brainstorming about ideas to do. So here's the Google Doc. So hopefully that is viewable. This is our doc for our empathic design, just calling it empathic design. And the design challenge is, how might we co-design or co-create community at the Empathy Center? So some related terms are human-centered design, design thinking, co-design, co-creation, participatory design. And these are different words that are used in the design community. And there's definitions of them below. And feel free just to jump in if you have any comments about anything or any questions. And so we have we're planning on, at least to begin with, just have a weekly, hourly meeting online before we kind of meet in person. And this is the schedule right now for our meetings. We'll eventually transition to meeting here in person. Maybe there'll be a group that meets online, who are like with Jonathan. I know Zach and Daniel are also interested in design. So I think Zach wanted to do more with kind of leading the online group. But the intention is really to get an in-person group going here at the Empathy Center. So this is the model that we're using, the Stanford D School design thinking process. And a person named David Kelly and his brother, I think it's David Kelly, do you remember, Jackie, they were the ones that started IDEO back when Apple first got started. They were early designers for Apple. And they started this company IDEO, which is really well-known, top-rated design company in the world. And the founder also started this design school at Stanford, where they have a whole department. As I was mentioning, I've taken several workshops there, and their design process is if you're designing anything, you want to empathize with the people you're designing for. And there's different, empathy practices. They have a whole little handbook on different empathy building practices. You define like a problem area, and then you go into creativity, brainstorming mode. And it's very geared towards creating prototypes so that you create a quick, rapid prototype of what your idea is, and then you actually test it out. And then the whole process is iterative. So you start, once you've tested it, you start again with empathize. I don't know, Jackie, since you have some design background, anything to add to that?
No, yeah, just and to emphasize that this IDEO has been incredibly influential in kind of the physical built design world over the past, 25 years. And so whether literally it's a logo or a process or a building, it's a process. It's this design thinking really works. So I've used it a gazillion times.
Yeah, you apply for anything, right? It's like you could design an aircraft carrier or whatever using the design process. There's a video out there with it. I don't know, the first thing I saw about IDEO, there was the news program Nightline. They gave them the challenge of redesigning the shopping cart. And there's a whole little video on how they go through the process of interviewing all the stakeholders in shopping cart, the stores, the users, everyone involved. Then they redesign the shopping cart. So you can apply it to anything. And at the Empathy Center, we're planning to do a sort of a continuous design process to design community. So while you can design products, you can create a culture. I think you can design a culture, and that's what we want to use this design process for, is to co-design community that really addresses the needs of everyone's community needs. And there's a whole curriculum that we can go through to do that. And it's really nice because IDEO has these off-the-shelf curriculum that are free to use. So these are some resource links. And each of those terms I mentioned, there's links to those so you can see the definition. So human-centered design, it's also called design thinking, and all this kind of the overview of it. You can just click through here, kind of poke around, and you'll kind of see how they define it and what it means. So design had started with, it was more of a designer who was the expert, was designing for people. And then they said, well, we need to bring people who were designing for into the process of co-designing. So they kind of had this term co-design. And that's working with the people, more closely that you're designing for. And then the term co-creation is also out there, which is that the designer is really creating the space and the group so if you're a non-designer, it doesn't matter. It's just anybody can come together, and even the idea is that the more wide perspectives you have, the better your design will be. And that's kind of a newer sort of a term, co-creation. It's very much out of Europe. I think they talk more about it there than they do here, as well as participatory design. So there's kind of an overlap, co-creation and participatory design. So that's sort of my definition and understanding. Jackie, I don't know if you've looked at this and have maybe more nuanced view or.
No, yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think the only thing I would add is that in a lot of academic settings, like where I went to design school, undergrad and grad, it's taken a long time for kind of it to go from this very prescriptive, dare I say, paternal system of like, I'm better than you in design, and it being kind of like this competition. When I tried to do this in grad school I started grad school in 97, and everyone was like, oh, please, like that's not what we do. We do design from like what is the best. So it's nice to see that slowly it's trickling into more commonplace in all designers.
Yeah, thanks.
Say something?
Yeah, go ahead. Any jump in. Just
Yeah. I mean, just looking at all the terminology and seeing like the, graphic and everything, and it's like there's like a lot of technical terms in there, but like the heart of it is what you do in a classroom. It's what you do in a family. It's just makes sense. Like there's nothing else. Like that's the only thing that makes sense. It's the only way to create community, and to be, of service and to create culture, like you're saying. It's awesome.
yeah, as a teacher, you're designing curriculum, you're designing the classroom experience. And also I wanted to mention that this design thinking, there's the IDEO or the design school, they have a program for design thinking in the schools. So there's like, at least in the Bay Area, I think I saw there's like 35 schools at least that have design thinking as part of their curriculum, or they do it from the ground up. The whole school is built on the design thinking or human-centered design framework model. So it's sort of like what used to be participatory learning. It's
Yeah.
like, sort of participatory learning 2.0, like a really
Yeah.
more intense. So yeah, a teacher, it would just be second nature, I think, the whole
And
this.
I'm not familiar. I'm sorry, this is probably whatever, but I'm not familiar with the IDEO. What is that?
It's one of the top design companies. So if you
Oh,
look up,
company.
it's IDEO.com or something. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I could look it up real quick. There should be links there somewhere. Like
Yeah. I know
you
I
just
still
do
can't
it.
open that thing, but you've sent other emails that I think have access to the same document. So I'll find it. I'll sort through things and look harder.
Like Angel, if, as an example, when I worked at Nike, we were trying to figure out how to what to do with our upcycle, like when we had the shoes that needed to be recycled, upcycled.
Mhm.
And so they brought a group of people together. We were all predominantly designers, but not. And they brought in an IDEO team and did this process of like, okay, how can Nike think differently about what do we do with um, with how to recycle shoes?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it just like it makes it just makes so much sense. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the answers to everything.
Yeah, it's a natural process. They've just, it's just almost like the process you do anyway, naturally, but they've just formalized, structured it, gone into depth, and it's
Yeah.
yeah. And there's the schools. I've seen a lot of school projects, where they have the students, just do design projects, and
Hmm.
so it's
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
and I've done the process number 5 here. I've done the process probably 9 or 10 times. You can click through there and see the online, projects I've done. I've done 2 or 3 in-person ones. And I did post the into the chat IDEO, their website, and there's links to the design school here somewhere too, so you can see the design school.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then again, this is I just was putting some graphics in to, make it a bit more visual. And this is again the same, human centered design. I call it empathic centered design, just to make it clear about the empathy. It starts with empathy, uses collaborative participatory methods, and you just repeat the process over and over again, kind of refining and refining, your product or service or culture for that matter. And these are the some to-dos. We want to find a core group of people to lead, the cohort here. So we'd be good to have, several people who are designers who can kind of help set up the framework, but anybody can take part. And it's actually good to have, the whole point is to have non-designers kind of get involved in this, and everybody can use the practice. And the other step was to research human-centered design in Santa Barbara. There's a student group I did find in Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, and there's a link to their site, they did say that, hey, there's nothing going on here in UC Santa Barbara around design, so we thought we'd create our own little group. So it would be nice to get connected with some students or something if they're interested in this, but then sometimes students get kind of busy with their own stuff. We do have someone from the UC Santa Barbara Wellness Center. I thought she might be here today. She was interested in this group, Charlene O'Brien, and she was going to contact that group because she's at the UC Santa Barbara Wellness Center, and their group is going to be using the garden room here at the center in January for one of their workshops. So it'll be a good way to connect with those students, you know, to see if we can get them interested. We need to find someone to lead this design project. I don't have the time to be the main lead, so I don't know if Jackie or somebody would might be interested in leading this, or you know, co-leading with someone else, so it's not too much work. So that's one of the tasks. You know, create an online discussion group, email group. You know, just to post questions about this to the LinkedIn. There are some design groups that I've posted to, and I've talked to some people about co-design. It's mainly in Europe. There hasn't, yeah. So, you know, trying to connect with the design community online. And a basic outline is that we can start, there's a multiple curriculum that IDEO has that I have copies of, and they have a 2-hour design workshop. They have a 1-day one, and then they have a 7-week one, which is, you know, people meet weekly for several hours. And then the idea is to also set up a weekly, you know, sort of ongoing designs here at the center, that we're working on that same design challenge, and people would break into groups and work on different projects to create the community. And so far, this is the people who have shown interest, you know, in varying degrees. There you are, Angela, just you've come. So, and Jonathan. And we got an email list here, so you can email the group. And here is, let me just check any questions, comments before we move on. I want to be sure.
Edwin, I'm happy to lead or co-lead.
Yay. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. You're hired. So, yay. And 1 to 2 hour curriculum and so these are the actual links to, if you watch these, you can see some of the sample design, and the curriculum is there. We just need to modify it to with our own design challenge. And so one idea is that we just, you know, find maybe a Sunday or something, and we just start, you know, holding our first, maybe in later, maybe probably after maybe in February after our workshop with our next facilitator training, which is I think 27th and 28th of January. So anyway, there's the curriculum. Would be easy to hold that. You know, that's just a 2-hour, maybe 3-hour. They even have a 1-hour version. And then they have a 1-day workshop that's like really well defined. They have like slideshows deck, and you just, you know, set up a projector, and you just, you know, have people see the slide deck, and you explain it, and then it can be any number of people, you know, like 30 people, and then you divide into breakout rooms or groups, teams, basically, and each team sort of has the same challenge, but they just start approaching it, you know, using the process. And then we've got the 7-week course that there's also, you know, step by step, the whole curriculum is all laid out. So anyway, and then there's also prototyping. There's sort of these basic, you know, going through the process once, and then there's like this one's a 4-week course that is just on the prototyping, so the testing phase. So if you go through and just really just click on all these links. You'll have a good sense of of uh, of sort of the overview of the curriculum and so forth. So with that, yeah, so I guess we can open up just any kind of brainstorming ideas about this, thoughts.
I have a million, so I feel like I'm gonna just hold back. Designer, hold back.
Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
When I was younger, working my way through junior college, I worked for San Pablo Parks and Recreation. And they had a very interesting motif, the Spanish tiles and a plaza. And it had 5 rooms, and it hosted simultaneously multiple events. And it was funny because the funding came through a federal grant. The renovation took 4 disreputable apartment complexes, and they went to the trouble of moving them and turning it into almost something. If I could pull up find a quick video, it would look exactly like the picture behind you, only square, with a beautiful fountain in the center. Yeah, I just wish that you could have festivals and multiple functions. In all the space that you have. I worry about, do you have is there enough bandwidth to have 200 people there to get the excitement of of a carnival, or excitement of a flea market, or excitement of just the plaza feel. And I know that you said you were going to take out the parking lot. Anyway, I'm going to pause.
Okay, any thoughts on that? Well, there's we can have the chapel holds 200 people, and we have a overnight limit of 138 by the conditional use permit. And yeah, so but I think for a design group, we probably want 30. I mean, a small group could just start with 5 people, and then is probably a good amount is sort of maybe a minimum, and then the day-long workshops, they usually have like 30-40 people, and then divide into groups. I don't know if I'm sort of addressing your comment there.
Yeah, what comes to mind for me is not so much directly in terms of the spatial design of the center. What comes to mind for me is in the culture of empathy, there's, I would guess, a lot of participatory processes in the people that are gathering. So not only that there is more equality in terms of what the jobs that are shared, but I would think there's also more passion from participants to be involved, not just in the empathic circling process, but in the process of putting on events and make that more a shared thing. So it's like we used to have a community dinner once a week in Phoenix. And what we found is that there were always so many people who wanted to volunteer because they wanted to show through the work how much they appreciate what they're getting. Not just as an offset to maybe that we had homeless people who didn't bring any money, and so they worked. There was 2 there. But there were people who paid quite a bit, and they paid for the homeless their meal, and then they cleaned the dishes, and they came every week and they said, we want to do this. This is part of the experience. And I expect that to be, in a center that's around empathy, that there will be a lot of, the floodgates will open in people to want to give. And so what's important is that the design allows that the design is not created like which I find in a lot of other in our world, designs are around separating people. One group does this stuff, and they should be invisible for the rest of them because they are serving them and they don't want to be disturbed. All those things are in a culture that's not so empathetic, but in a really truly connected, in a culture of connection, there's flow processes, and I just popped out of my brain. I was in the 80s in Pune at Rashni's ashram. And at one point, there were 12,000 people in this I mean, it's just a fairly small area. But everything was designed as flow. So even the kitchen was a flow through thing. Everything was designed for that. And I couldn't believe there were 11,000 people and you didn't really feel it. Then you go into the Buddha hall and there's massive amount of people, but you leave it and everybody has these environments where they can flow in and out. And I think that's also for like work processes, that when you begin something, you have a way to finish it so that the next person who does the job has a natural way to connect with your ending. So, and that you can train people and say, if you take on this job, this is how you end it, because that's really important for the next person, that you end it well. Those types of things I found are not necessarily in place in our environments, and they are not in place in the minds of people. Like I see it, for example, when we set up drum circles, the flexibility and creativity in people to move chairs and be attentive to other people and adjust. And so it's really atrophied, in this, I find my spot, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna insist this is my spot, right? Yeah, but who cares? We want to play together. Can you be like adaptive to that? This is what comes to mind for me when in a more fluid community that's open and listening, and also listening to the needs of what's on the ground, cleaning up, things can be designed so that becomes intuitive and beautiful. And I'm going to just stop there.
Well, what we're looking at is how do you design something, that addresses that need of yours for that sort of a flow. And this process is such that you can get together with the team and come up with those ideas and actually test them out. So like,
Right.
hey, do they work in reality? And then you just learn through testing them out. And, just like we learned with other stuff here, you just see, does it work? And then you just keep iterating on it. So you're already starting to design the community, I see.
Yeah, testing is really important, and testing over and over again. I have tested certain things in music for decades before I found the settledness in me to make it a teaching, or make it something that's actually foundational aspect of it.
And Daniel, I would add to that part of what really excited me after the in-person training in Santa Barbara, especially that Sunday circle, our last circle, where Lou was peppering me with a mild and spicy difficulty of that I really believe, or I think it's really interesting that we could use kind of this framework that Edwin and Lou and Bill have come up with, almost as like when in question about the design of the community or the design of the space, refer back to we know that there needs to be somewhat of a structure to an empathy circle. Yet it allows for that, exactly what you were saying, that flow. So even though we may not be able to, or I may not be able to, Edwin or Lou or Bill probably could, exactly articulate why that is so. It doesn't matter because I have experienced that enough, or and will continue hopefully to experience that enough that it feels like, oh, I can rely back on that structure of an empathy circle and trust it. So I think that for me is what it's almost like there's already a there with all of the work that Edwin has done for the past 15 years. So it's almost easier in a way, to my mind.
Yeah, the empathy circle, we do the empathy circle beforehand to start being in that sort of state, the mutual listening, the equality that you're talking about, Daniel. And then if we're working on projects and things fall apart, which they conflict, then we have the empathy circle to go back. We have a good example of that. We had some conflict here at the center with the grill fire with Daniel and myself and Zach, and we sat down. It was like, an hour of an empathy circle to kind of work through the problem and come up with a list of steps to do. So the empathy circle, I think, for this whole process is a really good, first step that kind of leads into this design process.
One thing I want to respond to from Jonathan. I've done a lot of events, small and big, and I participated in a lot of the events. And one of the things I've found that, at least for me, not that I have like a complete settled take on that, but oftentimes events have multiple, or spaces have multiple purposes, and oftentimes multiple things happen simultaneously. And I have found that that's not helpful to create more sensitivity and more empathy. That when just take a simple example. If I do a party and I have two stages and I have something going on in the house and there's multiple things to choose from, that's nice from an entertainment point of view, but it doesn't really bring the community sufficiently together, because there's always a little bit of an element of adventure when we really want to come together. There's a little bit of emotions to be overcome. There's emotions stirred up. There's the more we open, the more we get in touch with, the difficult parts of us, and they need sort of hand holding. And if they have a choice to go somewhere else, and then they may do that, right? And it creates this subtle little tension in the texture of the field. And so just to say it simply, when I hear about the culture of empathy and the culture of an empathy center, then I become really protective of, like, it needs to be around empathy. I don't want to be too fanatic about it, but it just, when I hear you like different, all kinds of events, a flea market and so on, I go like, wait a second, empathy is not a flea market. Or, I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to push this too hard. I'm not hard-nosed on it. I just want to put this into the space that there is something very tender about what we're discovering, and it needs a form of container that's kind of protected in some way, I feel.
Well,
Maybe
just a note, we have 8 minutes before I think that our next group starts. So we can stay and, have an empathy circle, or our sort of meet and greet empathy circle starts. I only budgeted an hour for this. So we're going to meet again, I think, next week. I think we have next week. And so we'll sort of continue this discussion. We can continue in the next group as well. And in terms of the container, I think what you're talking about, the Empathy Center does have a clear mission statement as a 501c3 about raising the level of empathy in society through education and community initiatives. So the legal container is there, as well as we're kind of looking at this area of design which is, you see, the curriculum of design starts with empathy, so it's a highly empathic
Yes.
process. So I think we're sort of addressing that need for, holding empathy in what we're doing, and I'm sure there's other things we can do to strengthen that as well. So I think that in terms of sort of next steps, it's like trying to find other people who are interested in design is the next. We need to get sort of a critical mass going. And I think a few of these meetings to get people together, kind of connect, and then, start thinking. I don't know, any other thoughts about next steps since you're going to lead this, Jackie?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the next 2 weeks are just going to be hard because of the holidays and travel and things like that for me. But Edwin, feel free to keep meeting. But I can commit. I can commit as of January. So
that was my thought too. Is like, just to be consistent, I'll just hold the space. It'll be sort of casual. It'll be more into January. If you don't, with all the holidays, it's going to be hard for people. So it'll be more. We'll get started more in January, and I would imagine maybe in February would be a workshop. Later in February would be maybe our first in person, even if it's a small group of 5 or 6 going through a couple hour. We do have our Wednesday 11 a.m. meet and greet here. We could even use that time too for, instead of it being just a meet and greet, it could be a sort of a mini design process too. That's something to think about.
Yeah, and one thing I mentioned to Edwin earlier this week when we were talking is determining if there's a space within the center that we could dedicate as like the design room. So if we're like we have visuals, or like just to kind of almost keep the process going and have a singular spot to keep building on. So
yeah, I think that was Daniel was mentioning something like that too. That you got a spot that's sort of dedicated, so we can take a look where what space could be used for something like that. Yeah. Could be actually into one of the dormitory areas that's not being used. It's like there's one room that's kind of pretty open and usable.
Oh, that little chapel. It looks like it used to be a chapel. Anyway,
that would be too. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that would be.
That's kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah, good idea there. Okay, so any other thoughts, kind of next steps? So, and in terms of being able to participate in the next couple of weeks, how are you, Angela, with
Yeah, I can do that. And I'm really open to, anything you're going to do with the center. I mean, I'm not far, so anything you do with the center, or any workshops or anything like that, I'm definitely very interested in participating in that.
Okay, well, we have the Wednesday group. I'm not Wednesday, the Sunday tomorrow. I'll be here. So if you're going to meet in person, 11 a.m. at the center.
I'm going to be going out of town tomorrow, but
Okay.
I might be able to stop on the way. I'm gonna check the timing on that. But
okay. And then we'll take the holidays off, and then it'll be in January, start up again. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I just happen to be here for the week, so kind of been doing work.
Okay.
And Daniel, how are you with sort of continuing? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll be. Let me. Where is the project here? Just see the dates. I have no problem with next Saturday. All the dates, whatever. Yeah, I'll be there on the 23rd. I can be there on the 30th of January. Yes, and depending on my schedule and how things are happening, maybe I will try to be at the first in-person design meeting in Santa Barbara. It's 5-hour ride, but it's not the world. I mean,
you can stay here. We got space for you.
Yeah.
And you, Jonathan?
Uh, I want to assist in the project, but I am committed to Lou and Bill for the next year. We have 1 year of training for facilitator training. And so I have to be cautious of meeting overlaps. And because, so in the training manuals, they have a floater. And so I want to be a participant and I want to know everyone. But I won't, well, I'll be more on an online presence than in a in-person presence.
Okay, and Jackie, you're committed. You're going to be leading this, and I think we're pretty set there. And you, so it sounds like in January you would come to we'd start meeting.
Yeah, and I've been slowly talking to people and collecting
Okay.
potential local.
Yay.
locals.
Can I ask who Lou is? I've heard that name a lot.
He's one of our trainers. There's a core group. He's also on the board here of the center. So he's in Petaluma. I'm going to let this person in there. It's our visioning circle. So if you want to stay, we can do some round of empathic listening, or you can, up to you. Hey,
Unfortunately,
Tara.
I
Okay.
have to scoot, but it was great to be with you all, and more soon.
Okay. See you soon.
I'm gonna
Bye.
Take care.
but I'll see you guys. Thank you so
Okay.
much for having me.
Hi, Tara. Welcome.
Hi, am I late?
No, we just finished another meeting, so we're sort of transitioning into the next one, into our
Wonderful.
design. So welcome.
Hi,
Where are you from?
New York, New York.
Okay. You just heard about the Empathy Center here?
Yeah, I'm brand new. I'm a member of your meetup page and just followed the link.
Oh, great. Hey, Harmony.
Hi.
Yeah, are you gonna join us tomorrow, Harmony?
I
Oh,
am.
good.
I will be there.
Yeah. So just let me bring up my notes here we're just holding another meeting that we just finished where we're going to be doing design, human-centered design here at the center. And it's we're going to be looking at using the design process to design community. So we have a weekly meeting that just starts an hour before this one.
Nice.
So we just finished that one. So let me bring up our notes. Oh, gotta stop the recording.